November 14, 1944. 0410 hours. The Hartgen Forest, Western Germany. Cold settles into the bones long before dawn here. The trees rise tall and black, their bare branches clawing at a low sky that leaks mist instead of rain. Every step crunches softly, frost breaking under boot soles despite careful foot placement. Breath fogs the air, instantly visible, instantly dangerous. Staff Sergeant Paul Richter raises his fist. The 6 men behind him freeze. No words. No radio. Just the creak of leather straps and the distant thud of artillery somewhere beyond the trees. Richter listens, head tilted slightly, M1 carbine held close to his chest. He smells wet pine needles, cordite carried faintly on the wind, and something else. Smoke. Recent. This was not on the map. The recon team has been moving for 4 hours, slipping through gaps between German positions to identify artillery emplacements overlooking the core trail. Their orders are narrow and precise. Observe. Confirm. Withdraw. No engagement unless absolutely necessary. Lieutenant James Holloway crouches beside Richter, the 2 men barely silhouettes in the dark. Holloway is 23, recently promoted, West Point trained, carrying binoculars and a folded map sealed in wax canvas. He whispers just enough for Richter to hear. Smoke means activity. Activity means confirmation. Confirmation means the mission matters. Behind them, Private First Class Leo Maran adjusts the strap of his SCR 300 radio, careful not to let the antenna catch on branches. He is already tired. The forest has a way of pressing in on you, making distances feel longer, sounds closer, and time strangely elastic. Minutes stretch. Decisions compress. They are close now. Closer than planned. The German position is supposed to be 200 meters further east, according to aerial photographs taken 3 days ago. But the forest has shifted the fight. Shells fell. Units moved. Parts appeared where none existed before. Richter gestures again, pointing low. The team drops to their knees and crawls forward. They crest a shallow rise and see it. A clearing. Barely one. Just wide enough for 3 field guns dug in between tree stumps. Canvas covers pulled back. Crew silhouettes moving with practiced efficiency. A field kitchen fire smoldering nearby, its smoke hugging the ground. This is it. Holloway's pulse quickens. He scans the position through binoculars, counting men, marking angles, noting the direction the barrels face. West-southwest. Covering the trail exactly as division intelligence suspected. This is a success already. All they need to do now is withdraw the way they came. But something gnaws at Holloway. The path behind them feels suddenly fragile. One route in. One route out. The forest does not forgive repetition. He glances left. There is another way back. Narrower. Less obvious. A shallow drainage line running north, masked by fallen trees and brush. It was dismissed earlier because it adds time. 20 minutes, maybe 30. And time matters when daylight comes. Holloway hesitates. The original route back passes near a crossroads they crossed earlier. At the time, it was quiet. But that was hours ago. German patrol patterns change at dawn. If they double back the same way, there is risk. If they take the drainage line, they stay hidden longer. He weighs it quickly. Too quickly. Richter waits. The men behind wait. No one questions the pause. This is command. Holloway taps Richter's shoulder and points north, toward the drainage line. We go that way. Richter frowns, just slightly. He leans in, whispering. Ground is bad. Noise carries. Holloway nods. He knows. Wet leaves. Shallow water. Slippery rocks. But also cover. And unpredictability. He whispers back. Safer than the crossroads. It is a small decision. Barely a sentence exchanged in the dark. No vote. No prolonged debate. Just a choice made under pressure, with incomplete information. The team pivots quietly, backing away from the clearing, slipping into the trees. Behind them, the German guns continue to walk, unaware of how close discovery came. As they move north, the ground changes exactly as Richter warned. The drainage line is shallow but slick, a ribbon of mud and water cutting through the forest floor. Each step must be tested before weight is committed. A boot slides. A hand catches back. A canteen clings softly before being stilled by Maran's gloved hand. No one speaks. 15 minutes in, dawn begins to thin the darkness. Shapes sharpen. Shadows retreat. And then the forest answers back. A twig snaps. Not theirs. Richter drops instantly, raising his fist again. The team freezes mid-step. Somewhere ahead, voices murmur. German. Close. Too close. Holloway feels his stomach tighten. The drainage line has done exactly what Richter feared. It has funneled them. He brings his binoculars up slowly, scanning through branches. Movement. Helmets. Rifles slung. A patrol, cutting across the drainage line at a perpendicular angle. The Recon team is no longer slipping between enemy positions. They are about to intersect one. And the decision that put them here has already locked the door behind them. When the forest closed in, the German patrol is closer than Holloway expected. 30 meters. Maybe less. 6 men, moving in pairs, rifles at the ready, boots crunching deliberately through frost-hardened leaves. They are not rushing. This is routine. A sweep before first light, checking the drainage line for exactly the kind of team now frozen inside it. Richter eases his carbine forward, finger straight along the stock. He does not look at Holloway. He looks at the lead German, watching the rhythm of his steps, measuring distance, imagining angles. One shot would drop him. A second might stop the man behind him. But one shot becomes many. Holloway raises his hand, palm down. Hold. He scans for an escape. The drainage line curves slightly to the right, but the banks are steeper there, choked with roots and deadfall. To the left, the forest floor rises sharply, open enough that movement would silhouette them against the thinning sky. The patrol keeps coming. A German soldier stops suddenly, kneeling to examine something on the ground. A footprint. Fresh. Too clean. Not made by a boot designed for this terrain. Holloway's mind races. Withdraw now and risk noise. Stay and risk discovery. Engage and compromise the entire sector. This is what Recon avoids at all costs. The German shouts. It is not an alarm. Not yet. It is a call to his patrol leader, low and sharp. Others fan out slightly, rifles coming up. Richter does not wait for the order. He fires once. The carbine cracks, loud and flat in the enclosed forest. The lead German jerks backward and collapses into the drainage line. Richter shifts immediately, firing again, catching a second man in the shoulder as he spins. For one heartbeat, it almost works. Then the forest explodes. German rifles back in rapid succession. A flare hisses upward, bathing the trees in harsh white light. Shadows leap and twist. Bullets rip into bark and earth, snapping branches overhead. Holloway shouts orders, his voice barely audible over the gunfire. Pull back. Pull back north. The team scrambles, abandoning stealth entirely, boots slipping in mud, bodies colliding as they try to move together under fire. Maran struggles with the radio, the long antenna catching on a branch before tearing free. A round strikes Corporal Evans in the thigh. He goes down hard, screaming, hands clamping instinctively over the wound as blood darkens his trousers. Richter skids to a halt beside him, hauling him up by his webbing. Evans can stand, barely. They move again. The drainage line that promised concealment now traps them. German fire rakes along its length, bullets cracking overhead and punching into the muddy banks. The shallow water splashes violently as rounds strike inches from boots. Holloway realizes the truth too late. The Germans know this ground better than he does. This patrol was not wandering. It was placed here for a reason. They reach a bend in the drainage line and attempt to break left, scrambling up the bank into thicker brush. Another burst of fire erupts from higher ground. A second German element. Waiting. The Recon team is bracketed. Maran drops, clutching his side. The radio slides from his shoulder into the mud, still humming faintly. Holloway dives for it, dragging Maran with him, trying to pull both into cover behind a fallen log. Richter fires in short, controlled bursts, buying seconds, not escape. His face is calm, focused, but his jaw is clenched hard enough to ache. They are no longer executing a mission. They are surviving a mistake. German voices shout commands, crisp and confident. Grenades follow, thumping into the drainage line and detonating with concussive force. Mud and water rain down. Evans cries out again, his leg useless now. Holloway makes the call he hoped never to make. Break contact in pairs. It is doctrine. It is sound. It is also impossible. The forest is too tight. The enemy too close. The team too wounded. Richter locks eyes with Holloway for a brief moment. No accusation. No hesitation. Just understanding. Richter nods once, then turns back toward the Germans, firing deliberately, drawing attention. He is creating space the only way he can. Holloway grabs Maran, dragging him uphill toward the trees. Two others follow. They move 10 meters before German fire cuts them off again, forcing them back down. The Recon team is now fragmented, pinned, and losing men. And all of it traces back to a single decision made in silence, in the dark. The drainage line was supposed to keep them hidden. Instead, it has become their grave. No way out, no way back. The firing does not stop. It settles into a rhythm. Short bursts. Shouted commands. The unmistakable sound of boots moving to cut off escape routes. Holloway presses his face into the cold earth, heart hammering so hard it feels audible. He forces himself to breathe slowly, to think past the panic clawing at his chest. The team is split into two clusters now, separated by less than 20 meters that might as well be miles. Richter is still firing. Each burst is measured. Each pause calculated. He is not trying to win. He is buying seconds, forcing the Germans to keep their heads down, to believe they are facing a larger force than they are. It works. Briefly. A grenade lands near Richter's position. He sees it bounce once in the mud, rolls instinctively, but there is nowhere to go. The explosion throws him hard against the bank. When the smoke clears, his carbine lies twisted beside him, and he does not move. Holloway feels the loss before he sees it. The weight of the forest seems to increase instantly. German fire shifts, becoming more aggressive, more confident. The deception is over. Private First Class Maran is barely conscious now, blood soaking through his jacket. Holloway tries the radio again, whispering into the handset, giving grid coordinates, unit identification, anything that might bring artillery or smoke. Only static answers him. The antenna is gone. The team is alone. German soldiers advance cautiously, using trees and folds in the terrain, their movement disciplined and deliberate. They are not rushing. They know time favors them. Holloway scans desperately for an opening. There is none. The drainage line curves again, boxed in by rising ground on both sides. The forest floor beyond is open enough that any movement will be cut down instantly. Evans is losing blood fast. His teeth chatter uncontrollably, not from cold, but shock. One of the remaining men, Sergeant Cole, tears open a field dressing, trying to slow the bleeding while keeping his rifle trained forward. This is no longer a reconnaissance element. It is a trapped pocket. Holloway understands now what he should have understood earlier. The Germans did not react to their presence. They anticipated it. The drainage line is a natural route. They patrol it because they know recon teams look for exactly this kind of terrain. The small decision to take the alternate route did not just change their path. It put them on the enemy's map. A German voice calls out in accented English, amplified by the trees. Lay down your weapons. You are surrounded. Holloway feels every eye on him. The weight of command presses harder than any rucksack ever has. Surrender means survival for some. Resistance means almost certain death for all. He hesitates, and in that hesitation, another burst of fire cuts through the brush. Sergeant Cole jerks backward, collapsing without a sound. The decision is made for him. Holloway shouts for the men to pull back again, though he knows it is futile. They fire, shot burst, aiming more to slow than to hit. German fire answers immediately. One by one, the team is reduced. Evans stops moving. Marin's breathing becomes shallow, then stops altogether. The forest swallows their sounds quickly, as if eager to move on. Holloway empties his magazine, reloads with shaking hands, fires again. A round strikes his shoulder, spinning him around and slamming him into the mud. Pain blooms white hot, then recedes into something distant and unreal. When he comes to, the firing has stopped. Boots approach. German voices speak calmly, efficiently. A rifle butt strikes his helmet, snapping his head to the side. Hands grab his arms, wrenching them behind his back. He is hauled to his feet. Around him lie the remains of the team. Bodies have submerged in the drainage line. Equipment scattered. Blood dark against frost and mud. The forest is quiet again. The Germans search him quickly, confiscating his map, his compass, the binoculars that first confirmed the artillery position. One of them shakes his head slowly, not in anger, but in recognition. They had seen this before. As Holloway is marched away, stumbling, barely aware of his surroundings, the weight of it all settles in. The mission was accomplished. The guns were identified. But the team that did it is gone. And the reason is painfully clear. Not an ambush. Not bad luck. A single choice made with good intentions, under pressure, without full understanding of the ground. In reconnaissance, the smallest deviation can become a death sentence. And the forest does not forget. Aftermath written in mud. Holloway wakes to the smell of damp straw and disinfectant. His shoulder throbs with a deep, pulsing ache that radiates down his arm. When he tries to move, pain answers immediately, sharp and insistent. He opens his eyes to dim light filtering through a cracked window, the outlines of a low ceiling and rough wooden beams coming slowly into focus. A field hospital. German. His hands are bound. His jacket is gone. A rough bandage has been wrapped around his shoulder, efficient but impersonal. Someone has done just enough to keep him alive. As awareness returns, so does memory. The drainage line. Richter's last stand. The radio slipping into the mud. Faces frozen in moments that will never move again. A German medic notices him stirring and calls out. An officer enters a moment later, boots clean, uniform pressed despite the conditions. He studies Holloway with professional curiosity, not cruelty. "You are reconnaissance," the officer says in careful English. Holloway does not answer. The officer nods as if that confirms everything. He gestures to a chair and sits, removing his gloves deliberately. "You did your job well," he continues. "You found the guns. But you made one mistake." He taps the map taken from Holloway's pocket, now spread on a small table. A finger traces the original route in pencil, then shifts to the drainage line. "You returned the way we expected you to." The words land harder than any blow. Holloway looks away, jaw clenched. There is nothing to say. No explanation that matters. The officer is not mocking him. He is explaining something obvious, something learned through repetition. The Germans have been fighting this kind of war for years now. They know how reconnaissance thinks. They know where small units prefer to move. They patrol those places not constantly, but predictably, trusting that pressure and terrain will guide the enemy into familiar channels. The officer stands, conversation finished. "War is made of small decisions," he says. "Most people never see them. Those who do not get a second chance." Holloway is transferred days later to a larger prisoner enclosure. His wound heals slowly. His body recovers faster than his mind. At night, he hears the forest again, feels the mud under his hands, replays the moment he pointed north instead of back the way they came. He learns through other prisoners what happened next. The artillery position was shelled 2 days later. The core trail remained under fire longer than expected. The division took heavy casualties pushing through terrain already soaked with blood. The intelligence his team gathered mattered. The cost was total. Reports are written on the Allied side. A recon team failed to return. Presumed killed or captured. No mention of why. No space for nuance. Just a line in a daily summary among dozens like it. The men are not named. Their mistake is not examined. Because mistakes made at that scale are easy to dismiss. Too small to analyze. Too costly to dwell on. Months later, as the war grinds toward its end, new guidance circulates quietly among reconnaissance units. Avoid natural lines of drift. Do not assume alternate routes are safer. The enemy anticipates deviation. Lessons written without attribution. Holloway will carry the attribution alone. He will survive captivity. He will return home thinner, quieter, older than his years. He will never again hear crunching leaves without tensing. He will never again look at a map without seeing the spaces between lines where men disappear. The Recon team will not be rebuilt. Their names will not appear in books. Their mission will be counted as a success. And the small decision that doomed them will remain exactly what it was at the moment it was made. Unremarkable. The lesson that came too late. March 4, 1945. A command tent near Monschau, Germany. Rain drums steadily on canvas, turning the ground outside into a churned slurry of mud and boot prints. Inside, a young intelligence officer pins a fresh aerial photograph onto a board already crowded with maps, acetate overlays, and grease pencil marks. He points to a familiar feature. A narrow drainage line. Natural cover. Concealed movement. High probability of enemy patrols. Around him, platoon leaders nod. Some have learned this already. Others are hearing it formalized for the first time. The language is clinical. Detached. No names are attached to the example. Just a red grease pencil circle and a note in the margin. Avoid predictable terrain. For the men listening, it is doctrine. For Lieutenant James Holloway, now standing silently at the back of the tent with his arm still stiff from an old wound, it is a memory. He is no longer a prisoner. He is no longer on the line. He has been reassigned to training and intelligence liaison, deemed too valuable to lose again and too damaged to send back into the forest. He watches as new teams absorb the lesson his own team paid for in full. The war is almost over now. Germany is collapsing from every direction. Recon teams still go out, but the pressure is different. The enemy is retreating. Patrols are thinner. Margins for error are slightly wider. Slightly. Holloway studies the faces of the young men preparing to move forward. They look the way he did months ago. Alert. Confident. Focused on equipment and orders, not on the invisible decisions that will shape everything. He considers speaking up. Telling them exactly what happens when a single deviation intersects with an enemy who understands you better than you understand the ground. He does not. Because this is not how lessons travel in war. They move quietly. Indirectly. Sanitized into bullet points and diagrams. The blood is removed. The names are stripped away. What remains is guidance that looks obvious only after someone has died proving it. Outside, artillery sounds again, closer now, rolling toward the heart of Germany. The war is ending not with subtlety, but with overwhelming force. When victory finally comes, Holloway will go home carrying a ribbon, a scar, and a knowledge that never leaves him. That reconnaissance is not about courage. It is about restraint. About resisting the urge to improve a plan in the moment. About trusting the route you already survived once over the one that only looks better on a map. About understanding that the enemy studies your habits as carefully as you study theirs. The Recon team that entered the Hatgame Forest on November 14, 1944 did almost everything right. Their spacing was sound. Their observation was precise. Their discipline held under pressure. They were undone by one small decision that felt reasonable, even smart, in isolation. That is how most recon teams are lost. Not to heroics. Not to recklessness. But to a single quiet choice made when no one is watching, when the mission feels complete, and survival feels like something you can optimize. The forest does not allow optimization. It only allows passage or punishment. Long after the war, long after maps are archived and forests regrow over shell craters, that truth remains unchanged. Reconnaissance lives and dies in the margins. In habits. In discipline measured not by what you do under fire, but by what you refuse to change when everything in you wants to. One small decision doomed an entire recon team. Not because it was foolish. But because in war, especially in reconnaissance, being slightly wrong is often the same as being dead.